about way cash crisis works.
Talking about Venezuela once again.
Systemic important banks. They removed the 1,000 thing on there called monetary awareness. Hey there, hope all is well. Back at you today with some more RT News updates. And as you can tell from today's title, we're going to be talking about trade wars and how things seem to be ramping up massively on the international front, whether it be Trump tweeting about wanting to ban Mercedes-Benz or the EU in response to what's happening with the steel and aluminum tariffs that's been posed upon them. So other than that, as always, if you're new to RTD, I want to encourage you to click the subscribe button along with the notification tab to be informed of future updates as well as live streams. Also join me on Twitter where I share posts throughout the day on various subject matters dealing with our monetary system as well as whatever's happening in the news that I can't get to via video. Make sure you click the button down below to be notified when things are posted. So today I have a couple articles I want to share with you, basically just highlight some of the main topics in the news that I think is well worth mentioning. So from the very first article here where it talks about Trump, all the way to the next one where it talks about the EU's response or Brussels vows to retaliate. Then the very next one here is the whole situation happening with Deutsche Bank. Basically considering the fact they're an insolvent bank with trillions upon trillions of derivatives on their books, it's going to cause a worldwide contagion effect. And then for the very last one, when talking about what's happening in Turkey with the Lira and how people are losing their purchasing power left and right as that currency continues to have problems. And so as always, I want you to take time to read some of these articles for yourself. So scroll down below to make sure you find out more if you're interested in the story. I want to scan the surface a little bit, give you something to think about. So the very first one here talks about Trump said to want to ban Mercedes-Benz and other German luxury cars. Give you an idea what's going on. It says President Donald Trump is hoping to effectively ban sales of Mercedes-Benz, Audi, and other German cars, according to a report from a German magazine. A report cites unnamed diplomatic sources who said Trump told French President Emmanuel Macron he would maintain his trade policy until no Mercedes models rolled in Fifth Avenue, New York. It says Trump began pushing for heavy tariffs on car imports a week ago. Says U.S. Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross said at the time there is evidence suggesting that for decades imports from abroad eroded our domestic auto industry. Then here's one of those infamous tweets from our president. Says there will be big news coming soon for our great American auto workers. After many decades of losing your jobs to other countries, you have waited long enough. So here we have the idea that pretty soon, if not already, something will be made policy-wise that will be positioned to basically make America great again, but along the way pissing off a lot of our allies slash trade partners, which in a way has a very bad spin to it because it's going to cause a lot of problems with our economy and whatnot, no doubt. But yet, as I've mentioned in prior news updates, the fact that he's shaking things up, undoing a lot of things that has been put in place that hasn't been in our favor, in the long run could turn out to help us more than it harm us. So, but we'll see, but just something to be aware of. And then on the other end, it was a response from Brussels that said, bad day for world trade. Brussels vows to retaliate against U.S. tariffs in coming hours. So this was out today, this morning earlier. It says the EU will introduce swift counterbalancing measures to steel and aluminum tariffs imposed by the U.S., according to President of the European Commission, Jean-Claude Juncker. Quote, this is a bad day for world trade, so we will immediately introduce a settlement dispute with the WTO and will announce counterbalancing measures in the coming hours, Juncker said in a speech in Brussels. Quote, it is totally unacceptable that a country is imposing unilateral measures when it comes to world trade. The response followed Washington's decision on Thursday to impose 25% tariff on steel imports and a 10% tariff on aluminum imports from the EU, Canada, and Mexico. So here we have a response. So we'll see what their retaliation will look like, and I'm sure it will not be favorable for Wall Street in the sense that it will cause a lot of profits to be lost in some way or another. So something worth keeping an eye on. If you're interested, read more for yourself. Next one here, it says Deutsche Bank shares hit record low after Wall Street Journal report on Fed assessment. Give you an idea what's going on here. It says Deutsche Bank shares fell sharply Thursday after Wall Street Journal reported that the Federal Reserve has deemed the German lender's U.S. operations as troubled in a previously written assessment that has been made public. It says, quote, as a matter of policy, we do not comment on specific regulatory feedback, Deutsche Bank said. It says, quote, the ultimate parent of the Deutsche Bank Group, Deutsche Bank AG, is very well capitalized and has significant liquidity reserves. Right, liquidity reserves for your deposits and immediate cash-ready deposits or whatnot, or are you talking about reserves for those trillions upon trillions of derivatives that are not on your books, rather? So interesting to see how this all plays out, but Deutsche Bank is probably the pin that could prick the bubble in the whole derivatives mess that could unfold and unravel our entire financial system. So something worth keeping an eye on. Next article is from Express. It says, Europe banks alert. Turkey brink of collapse fears as Lira plummets, threatening euro crisis. So there's more information here as to what exactly is happening in Turkey, but yet that's why they were such a big hurry to repatriate their gold so they can have some reserves, have a true, hard, tangible savings account instead of having a Federal Reserve note-based savings account. It says as of last week, the lira was down 17% against the US dollar for the year, spooking global investors as many banks have borrowed money from Turkish companies. It says on Tuesday, the currency rallied, jumping 5.2% against the dollar. It says its strongest week since 2009. It says according to figures from the Bank of International Settlements, which measures financial and credit flows, global banks have lent just under $200 billion to Turkey. So they're steadily lending. How can you lend to someone who can't take care of their immediate needs, nevertheless be able to repay you back? Man, it blows my mind. But it's all based upon the idea that they're going to receive revenue from taxation from their citizens, which I'm assuming people in Turkey are probably tapped out as well. It says Spanish banks have lent the troubled country $62 billion, ahead of France is 22.6 billion euros. Italy 13.6 billion. How can Italy lend money is a question. Germany's the only one that's probably in good enough shape to be able to lend funds as of now. They lent the least. So this is what's happening in the news. And it's unfortunate that it's not really exciting news. It's not really things that should make people want to really jump and celebrate, because these are things that are really going to come back to hurt us in the long run, because they're three different story categories. When we have a trade war, we have EU's response to that trade war, which is about to be something fierce. Then we have the Deutsche Bank, which is probably the biggest bank in regards to the derivatives exposure. And then we have the Turkish lira, which is another country that's experienced financial times right now, or harsh monetary and financial times. And there's no real solution because they're all under the same model of just a debt-based Ponzi scheme type of system, which is in no way has a happy ending to it. But yet this is what's happening. And so the main thing to take away from this story is the fact that there's so many dominoes that could fall at any minute now. And the question is, are you in a position to where you can experience as less amount of pain as possible when these things begin to unravel? I.e., if you have a lot of funds in a bank, it may not be there. Give or take all the people that probably have funds in Deutsche Bank. And then with the trade war, if you're employed by a company that is dependent upon exporting their goods out of this country primarily, then there might come a situation where there may be some cutbacks one day if this trade war escalates, where there might be some job loss or whatnot. So there's all types of ways that our lives are intertwined into these situations here. And at the end of the day, it's nothing that's going to be real pleasant and enjoyable with this stuff. But I just want to shine some light on it and also get your take on this. I would love to hear your thoughts on any of these stories. Leave a comment down below and look forward to bringing you more news updates. Let's talk again tonight for an RTD Live Talk, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time.
Is the next recession?
Recession will be.
Will be a recession.
We're going to hit a recession.
The date of the next recession.
A U.S.-only recession typically lasts 8 to 10 months, but a lot of things about this particular one have not been typical. So
a crash is coming. Now, whether it's 6 months from now, 12 months, 36 months, no one knows.
I go to bed every night, I dream of another recession. If you know what to do, if you have the right plan to set up, you can make a lot of money from this.